Hey, hello, what's good? I'm Janae Zhirov and I'm a lifestyle and wellness writer. I'm fairly new to YouTube. I've been posting for about a month, I think, mostly vlogs. You can go and check those vlogs out on my channel. But I mainly post about like my freelancing journey, books I love, and really anything that brings joy to my life. A couple of my Bookstagram friends, Kat and Kat, they joined BookTube around the same time that I started filming for YouTube, and I felt really inspired by them to join the BookTube Newbie tag. So that's what this video is going to be about. My channel isn't like strictly about books, but books and reading is a really big part of my life. And I have a couple videos in the pipeline that are going to be about that, like a bookcase tour. I might even film with my husband, maybe like a bookshop date, like things like that. And I usually give reading updates in my vlogs, so books are very much a part of the Janae universe. For today's Q&A, I'm really going to be talking about why I love reading, and of course I'm going to go through like the standard list that's a part of this tag, but I feel like I need to remix it a little bit to put my own spin. The first question is, why did you start this channel? I started a YouTube channel to get better at things, so to improve my skills like video editing, graphic design, and to kind of live out like a music supervisor dream that I've always had, like the people that choose music and put it to video content, or like for TV shows and movies and stuff. Like I can kind of do that for my YouTube channel, and I have a lot of fun selecting the music for each video. So yeah, it's mainly to just try something new and to learn new skills. And I feel like it's also a really good way to kind of create a time capsule, like a video time capsule. And even just looking back at some of the few vlogs I have up already, it's kind of fun to watch them back and be like, oh, like remember that day, like remember when we hung out with so-and-so. So I feel like that is why I started my channel. And this year is really about trying new things. I mean, in January, I started my new career as a freelance writer and really betting on myself. So this is just kind of another format for that. What are you most excited for about this new channel? Learning new skills, improving my storytelling, and connecting with new people. Instagram, it's just not what it used to be. It's not as fun, and I really gravitate towards long form content. So obviously books, movies, TV shows, even music videos, I guess, and YouTube. Like I've been very inspired by long form content. Long form content doesn't make me feel as overstimulated. Like when you're scrolling through TikTok, just mindlessly scrolling on Instagram or even on Twitter, like you're just bombarded with so much information to process and so many visuals. It's just a lot at one time. Talking about overstimulation, that's a good segue into the next question. Why do you love reading? Reading makes me feel less overstimulated. I think we can all agree that it's a way for us to escape into other stories, other worlds. And my mind, when I'm reading, can tune out almost anything. Any like stressful thought I had before, if it's a good book, I can just focus on that and let everything else kind of fade into the background. So reading is definitely a hobby that eases my anxiety. I'm an anxious little being, and so when I pick up a book and I can get engrossed in it, it helps like that feeling of anxiety in my chest that I hate so much. Another thing I really love about reading is being able to literally jump into a page and explore another person's life, another world, a universe if you're reading fantasy. And it's just a great way to be exposed to other walks of life. I can be in New York experiencing something in the 1960s, or I can be in modern day Hong Kong and read about kids that are going to school there. Like anything is open for us to learn and read, even if it's fiction. We can learn so much from fiction still. I was actually doing research recently for an article about how to reduce anxiety and improve sleep through reading more often. I found this study that basically said when you're reading, people become more empathetic because you like connect with the characters in the story, or you can see a different side of a perspective. And I think that's awesome that there's science behind that. I think we could all be more compassionate, more empathetic, and so everyone should just be reading for so many reasons: to reduce anxiety, to get better sleep, to be empathetic, to learn. There's just so much goodness that comes from reading. When did you start reading? I started reading when I was pretty young. My mom was awesome and made sure I had a book collection. I remember in her bedroom, I think she had like 2 or 3 bookcases, and I had my own little section. And yeah, I just remember us reading, and then me like spending my free time as an only child reading. Like I was very good about occupying my time since I was the one in charge of that. I didn't have siblings or really cousins my age to do anything with, so I would read, I would play with my dolls, and that's what I did. And then moving into probably like middle school and high school, I stopped reading for pleasure, or at least as much, just because I had so much assigned reading, and I was also a band nerd, so my schedule was packed with just school related stuff. And then even in college, like so much more reading. I was still in the marching band in college for a couple of years, and college life can be pretty busy with clubs and making friends and trying to figure out what to do with your life and who you want to be in the world. I got back into reading probably about 5 or 6 years ago, especially when I met my husband. When I met him, he told me he read like 50, 60 books in a year, and I was just like, excuse me? Like, what do you mean? So I really have him to thank of like upping my numbers and really being intentional about making space to read. What book or series got you into reading? I'm not gonna lie to you, my memory is really bad. And before I filmed this video, I meant to ask my mom if she could remember what I read as a child. Obviously, she has a better memory of that period of time. But of course, when I talked to her on the phone this morning, I forgot. So I can't share that with you, but I can share what I remember reading as a teen. I know I really loved a series that was, what was it called? The Confessions of Georgia Nicholson. It was like based in the UK. I forget how many books there were, but there was, the first one I think is Angus, Thongs, and Snogging. And I think that series was just something unlike what I had read before that. It was like a little bit more mature, like my first more like risque book growing up. Not that it was like super risque, but snogging, kissing, it was going towards that like realm of YA. And I honestly have that series to thank, I think, for my love of British TV and just like British culture. That definitely like opened up that world to me. Another book that I loved as a kid or a teen was Stargirl, which was turned into a Disney Plus movie in 2020, which that was surprising because I feel like it was like decades after the book had been published, which I watched it, of course. Like, I still have that book. I think it's on my bookshelf here and not with my mom. And then in my early to mid 20s, I got super into self-help books. I feel like when you're at that age and you're trying to like figure out your place in the world, figure out what kind of person you want to be, you go to self-help. Like, a lot of people have their self-help phase. Now I'm kind of burnt out of that, and I don't feel like I need as many of those books now as I've figured myself out a bit more. But yeah, I had my self-help phase, and now I primarily read fiction and memoirs. What kind of books do you like to read? I enjoy literary fiction, contemporary romance, YA books, fantasy, and like I said, memoirs. Here are some of my favorite books. These are the ones that I recommend most often to family and friends and people on the internet if they ask for recommendations. Have you read any of them, or are any of them on your TBR list? Let me know in the comments. Okay, and now I have a question for you. I'm gonna turn briefly this Q&A around for a second. What kind of books do you love? What are your favorite genres? What are some books that really mean a lot to you? I would love to know. Feel free to leave a comment down below and give me some recommendations. I could use them. I can always use recommendations. I don't care how many books are on my bookshelves, a lot, or how many books are still on my TBR list, also a lot. I just want to hear from you and know what kind of books that you love. Where do you read? I have a few favorite reading spots. Of course, my bed, my couch, my pink chair from World Market. I love reading on our balcony now that we have our chairs out there. In the park, on the beach, I'll read in the freaking waiting room of a doctor or a dentist. The only place I can't read is in the car. I get very car sick very easily, so that's just a no-go, unfortunately, which sucks for like road trips and stuff. I can read on the plane, just not the car. But yeah, I will read anywhere. And I try to keep a book with me now if I know there's going to be like a little bit of downtime or if I'm going somewhere. I think my favorites, it's probably the couch. I think that's my favorite. I just like being cozy, like laying in the cushions with a pillow on my lap and a blanket. Yeah, I think that's my favorite. What are some fun and unique things you can bring to BookTube? Are any of us truly unique anymore? Do you ever think about that? Just kidding. I know we are, but these days with TikTok trends and just the way things move so fast because with internet and technology, I feel like everyone's kind of blurring together. Like, do you feel that way? I talked about this in a recent newsletter and I'm still like, I feel like it's just a question that's been on my mind. We're totally doing the same routines, reading the same books, buying the same things, and I really crave for more individuality, and I hope to bring some of that to this channel to show you who I am, what my tastes are, and maybe it's a little different from what you've seen. And you know, despite what social media makes the world seem like everyone has a different story to tell, different experiences, like no two people are actually the same. Reading is such a subjective thing, like we all have different opinions on how a book made us feel, and I will try my best to show that for me. I really read what I want when I want. I'm not really super swayed by trends that are happening. I also try not to always just read the new releases. Like I try to dig back a little bit. I mean, I honestly, like you probably know, like our TBR lists are miles long, so it's like there's so many books to be read. All right, this is the last question. What challenges do you think starting a BookTube channel will be hardest to overcome? I think with anything that's new or really anything in life, consistency is always going to be the biggest challenge. I have a habit of having a million ideas in my head and I want to execute on all of them. But I have to be really mindful. Like I'm running my own business now. I'm self-employed. I'm writing for a living. I need to make sure I'm also prioritizing like my client projects. So I originally wanted to post on YouTube every week, but I don't want to be working all the time, even if it's fun. Like I love editing videos, but like I really prioritize rest and hobbies and quality time with my husband. So I'm not trying to be glued to my computer or my camera or an editing software or just be on a screen for a long time. So I moved my posting schedule to every other Friday. So if you're subscribed, you'll see me right here every other Friday. Maybe I'll like add in a couple videos here and there extra every month if I can, if I have the time, if I'm feeling inspired. So yeah, consistency, I think. And in terms of like talking about books, I'm so used to writing out reviews and like engaging on Bookstagram for that kind of stuff. So getting in the habit of talking about books and figuring out like how I want to talk about books will also be kind of a challenge. I'm kind of shy, like honestly, speaking publicly, even to the camera, a little stressful, a little anxiety inducing. So that's a challenge. Getting over fear of speaking, getting better at speaking, and still showing up as myself. I never want to not be myself. Speaking of rest and leisure and not being glued to a screen all the time, I think after I'm done here filming this and hanging out with you, I am going to decompress from all this talking with a book or hanging out with my husband. We're gonna go see the new Super Mario Bros. Movie today, which I'm really excited about. But we have a little, let me see what time it is. Yeah, we have a little bit of time before we have to leave, so I'm gonna go rest, and I hope you do too. And I hope you have a lot of amazing reads in your future. Thanks so much for watching.